Taf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, the Mishnah towards the top of the Amud. Zok the Mishnah, Eilu Dvorim, these are the types of grains, which a person, if he makes matzah out of this, he can be Yitzis Chiyav of eating matzah on Pesach. What are the grains? Bechitim with wheat, B'sa'ayrim with barley, B'kusmin spelt, B'shipin is rye, Avishibal shul is oats. These are the types of grains that make matzah out of. They can be Yitzir Chiyav of matzah. The Yitzim, now not talking about, the next category is not talking about the type of grains, it's talking about if the general, and we'll see in the Gemara later on, the general principle is that something which is a davar ha'asur, you can't be Yitzir Chiyav of matzah with. However, the Yitzim, you could be Yitzir Chiyav with demai. That's with the wheat of the flour is purchased, or the matzah was purchased from an Amoritz, and the Amoritz, there is a chiyav of midrabanan. We had a chiyav of giving maisers. We're not soymech, we don't rely on the Amoritz as far as the hafreshus maisers, but that's a chiyav derabanan, and it is mutter under certain circumstances. So tomorrow we'll discuss why, but you could be yotze with the matzah made from demai of a ma'aser rishon shenitla trumasai, and ma'aser rishon which the trumas ma'aser was separated from it. So as the acher, this is a davar pasha. Tomorrow we'll discuss it, because if you took it's a ma'aser and you took the trumas ma'aser, it's chul, and it's regular chul. And tomorrow we'll discuss what the chiddush is. Over Ma'aser Sheni v'hekdesh and niftu, and Ma'aser Sheni that has to be eaten in Yerushalayim, but you were poided, or hekdesh that you were poided, that you could also be Yitzah. Likewise discussed, v'hakahanim, they can even be Yitzah with challah, over truma, and truma because that's mutter to a kohen, avaloi b'tevel, but not with tevel because that's osur la'achilo, so you cannot be Yitzah. And not with ma'aser rishon where the trumas ma'aser was not removed because it's a davar also. And not with ma'aser actually that you weren't paid it, and therefore, and eating it outside, eating the ma'aser sheni outside the walls of Yerushalayim is also. So you cannot be yotze with that, and you can't be yotze with hekdesh that you weren't paid it. Chalas ha-taida, the taida, there is 40 chalas that were brought for the taida, and 30 of them were matzah. So, can you be yotze with these for the chiyav of, with these matzahs for the chiyav of achilas matzah on Pesach? Chalas ha-uriki ken nozer, and the wafers of that the nozer brings, the matzah wafers that the nozer brings. So again, can you be yotze with those for your chiyav of matzah ason la'atzma if he made them for himself and yotze? He cannot be yotze his chiyav of matzah. We'll see why in the Gemara. So limkar b'shuk, but if he made them to sell in the market, the shuk yotze b'em, you could be yotze. This will all be discussed in the Gemara. Let's see the Gemara, the Reisha, we talked about the different types of grains. So Tana Brisa says, Kusmin min chit, spelt is in the family of wheat. So they have wheat, and Kusmin spelt is in the wheat family. Shibal shul, Shipon means siren. And oats and rye are in the family of barley, of siren. Kusmin gulba. Kusmin spelled is also called gulba. Shipon Dirshu, and rye is called Dirshu. Shibol shul, shvile sala is called shvile sala. That's another name for it. It literally means the ears of the fox. So honey in the Gemara's medayik, honey, and these are the types of grains you can use for matzah, but oirs v'daychan loy. But you can't use rice or millet. Menahe mili, where do we know this? What's the source that thishcannot be used? Amar Rishon ben Lakish, v'chein tana d'bei Rav Yishmael, v'chein tana d'bei Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. Amar Kro, the pasuk says, le'seichel alav chometz. It says you cannot eat chometz with the korban pesach. Le'seichel alav chometz shivas yomim toichel alav matzah. 7 days you eat matzah. You eat matzah with it. Now, so we make the hekesh between the two. Dvorim haboim lidei chimutz, it's leisoch alav chometz. The things that can become chometz, adam yaitz b'm yidei chayiv also b'matzah. It can be yaitzes chayiv b'matzah. Yatsa elu she'ein boim lidei chimutz, but it excludes these types of things, like rice and millet or zedaychan, that do not come lidei chimutz. They don't rise. It doesn't have a leaven. It doesn't rise. El lidei sirchan. It just, when it's left with water, it just comes to spoil. It spoils, but it doesn't leaven. It doesn't become like dough made out of wheat and rye, etc., and barley that leavens and rises. So therefore, you cannot use these for matzah. They do not come lidei chimutz. So like the Gemara Masnissen, the like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nur. It's masma mishnah is not like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The Amara oiris min dogan hu v'chaim al chimutz kares. He says it is considered a grain, that rice is considered a grain, and it does come lidei chimutz. It does leaven, and if a person eats it on Pesach, he's chayv kares, just like chometz from wheat and barley. The Sanya Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri oiser ba'oiris v'daychen. He says it's also to eat something cooked with oiris v'daychen b'nei shekarav lahachmitz, because it's close to being machmetz. So now we want to analyze what does it mean korov lahachmetz. So apparently, when we said that the loik Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, apparently this interpretation of korov lahach means that it is machmetz very quickly. So therefore, it's considered to be something which is chometz, and therefore chayav malav kores. But now the Gemara analyzes this. Ivoilahu shekorav lahachmes. When it says korov, what does that mean? The korimu machmes, that it becomes chometz very quickly, or delmi korov lahachmes havle chometz gomer loyhave, or perhaps what it means is korov lahachmes is close to chometz, but it's not mamish chometz. It's close to becoming chometz, but it's not mamish chometz. He says it's considered a grain, and if it's chometz, you chayv kores. And you can be yaitze with it for the chiyuv of matzah. Kromes, he says, kromes chayav es b'chali. He said another halacha that kromes is considered also a grain. You can use it for matzah, and you have to take challah from it. It has a chiyuv of challah because it's considered to be a regular grain. My karomis, what is that? Amar Abaya, Abaya shitzanisa. Shitzanisa. My shitzanisa. What is that? Amar Papa shitzanisa demishtalcha beni kalnisa. It's shalnisa which grows amongst poppy, which Rashi translator says this is what we call a fennel or kimmel. It's a dark black grain, and which is called kimmel. And according to Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, this is considered a grain, and it can become chometz, and it can be yaitzev chometz with Pesach. So this is the source of the issue of rice, where the Rama Pasan's rice is not like Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, that it's not considered to be a grain of the grains that can become a chometz. It's not machmetz, and therefore it's mutar on Pesach. You cannot use it for matzah, but it's mutar on Pesach. It's not chometz, and the minig of the Sfardim is that they're saimech on that, and they eat rice on Pesach. Minig Ashkenazim is, according to most poskim, that they also agree that halach is not like Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, but the minig is that not to eat it because of the resemblance with wheat, of flour that's made out of wheat, flour that can be made of rice, can be very similar, and different products that can become, whether it's made out of wheat or rice, are very similar, crackers or things of that nature, and therefore the minig Ashkenazim is not to have rice on Pesach. Amar Rav Rachan Amar Reish Lakish Isa Shin Loisha Beyain V'Shem Dvash Ein Chayavon Al Chimutza Kares. It says if the dough is kneaded with wine or oil or honey, then, and it was used with that instead of water, then it does not become chometz, and there's no chiyuv kares for that. Yosef Rapapa Rav Huna Berei Yeshua Kamed Ravidi Bar Avin Yosef Ravidi Bar Avin Kav Kamen Namnem, and he was dozing. Amalei Rav Huna Berei Yeshua Rapapa my time the Reish Lakish. What's the reason for this? Reish Lakish said that Amalei Rapapa said Damar Krale Sechalav Chometz. It says don't eat with the Korban Pesach Chometz, and it says Shivas Yomim that you should eat the matzah. So therefore, we make the hekesh like we learned previously. Where is there a chi of chorus on something that's chometz, something that you can be yaitza with it, yaitza this with the chi of matzah? And these, if it's needed, if the dough is needed with these types of juice, you cannot be yaitzer chiv of matzah with them. Why is that? Because the havle matzah shira, because the matzah is supposed to be lechem eini. It's supposed to be lechem over the poor person, and this is considered that matzah shira is made with honey or with wine or with oil. It's considered to be the bread of wealthy people. It's not called, it's rich matzah, not poor matzah, so therefore you cannot be yaitzi yachiv matzah with them. Ein chayav malchi mutzei koros. There's no chi of koros either. Eisei Rav Huna Berei Yeshua Rav Papa, he asked the kash, it says him if a person dissolved the grain in water and he swallowed it on a Pesach, im chametzu is onish koros. If it was already became chometz, his chayav koros. V'im matzahu, and if it's not chometz, if it's matzah, and ein adam yaitze yidei chayav also b'Pesach. He's not yaitze, his chayav on Pesach with swallowing this. He cannot be yaitze, as the Rashi explains, because it's you have to eat. It's a lashon of achila by matzah. This is not called achila; it's called shtiyah. So now you were saying that you cannot be yaitzer yachiv with this type of matzah, but nevertheless, but you see nevertheless that they are chayiv if it's chometz kores. So you see that they're not connected. So therefore, you see there's no connection in this case. Similarly, we should say that it's by the matzah shira that also they're not connected, and therefore, even though you cannot be yaitza with matzah shir for the chayva of achila of matzah on the chayv of the first night of Pesach, but nevertheless there should be a chayv kores. If it's matzah, if it turns into chometz rather, if it turns into chometz, there should be a chayv kores. It's a Bahu Ravidi Bar Avin. Then Ravidi Bar Avin woke up. Amr Lahu, he said to them, Dardaki, young ones, Hainu time of the Reish Lakish. This is the reason of Reish Lakish. It says, Enechanami, as we demonstrated before, it's not that the Chiv Koros is not contingent on being able to be yaitza the mitzvah of matzah with it. They're not dependent one on the other. However, why did he say that if the dough was kneaded with yain and shemen and dvash, that there's no chiyuv on it? There's no chiyuv in chayav l'chimutza koros. There's no chiyuv koros if it becomes chometz. Why is that? Mishum davla mei peres, because these are mei peres. These are juice are mei peres. So mei peres ein machmitzim. Mei peres does not allow it to fully become chometz. It's not considered chometz. That's why you're not chayav koros. It's not the relationship between the achilas matzah, it's because it's not genuinely chometz. Then there is a machlokes rishonim. What does this mean exactly? So one approach is that, and Rashi's shita is that it's not considered no chi of koros because it's not a chi of koros because it's not chometz gomor. However, there still is a lav. So it's called chometz nuksha. There's a machlokes of chometz nuksha. Inferior chometz means that it's not chometz at all. Min haTorah, but midrabanan it's also. Or does it mean there's no chi of koros for it, but there still is a lav? The Taisus shita is Rabbeinu Tam's shita is that it is not machmitz at all. That there's no Isser Torah at all with this type of chometz. That's the sheet of Rabbeinu Tam, that min Torah there's no Isser whatsoever. Now there's a question, is further machlokes, what does it mean? What does it mean that it's nilusha b'mei paris? Does that mean that it's exclusively with the mei paris? There's no water whatsoever, it's only mei paris, which is the sheet of Rashi. And Rabbeinu Tam says no, it doesn't have to be exclusively. As long as the roiv is mei paris, it's still called nilusha b'mei paris, and there's no chiv chorus, there's no even isser d'oraisa according to Rabbeinu Tam. According to Rashi, it has to be exclusively mei paris. However, if the roiv is water, kuli amar moida, that if the majority is water, then it's machmetz, then it's considered to be regular chometz. So therefore, over here, this is nilusha b'mei paris. It does not have the regular din. It's not considered chometz, certainly not chometz gomer, and there's no chiyuv chorus.